Let's start today's video in a weird position sitting on the floor. One of the things that I always do to my bikes is I put S&S air cleaners on them. Why? Not because it's the finest air cleaner money can buy, none of that kind of stuff. It's because when I was a kid, on the back of my dad's bike, and we would go to events because he was a member of a motorcycle organization, the cool bikes had S&S teardrops on them. You know, going back, because they've made those since the dawn of time, pretty much. I think cavemen put them on their freaking dinosaurs. But back in the day, a cool shovel or Evo bike or whatever in the 80s had an S&S teardrop. And it meant that some performance mods had been made to the bike. And it just, I don't know, I just thought they were badass. All of his coolest buddies had one. So I put S&S teardrops on everything I have. It's just a habit. It's my preference. So even though this bike already has a high flow intake, we're going to swap her out and put an S&S teardrop on it. So I'm trying to think of questions you're going to get in the comments before we even get started. Your stock bike has a restrictive airflow cleaner on it, unless it's the new specials. The new specials that have the kind of ovular shaped intake that you can see the fins of the filter on the outside. Those are high flow air filters. As I understand it from the factories, it looks like the same one you would buy that's aftermarket. But for many, many years, since the dawn of time, Harleys came with restrictive airflow air cleaners for EPA qualification kind of stuff. So the first thing everyone did is they pulled that off and they put a high flow air cleaner on it to get some more air in the motor. And then yes, you had to rejet the carb or put a tuner on it to richen up the bike because now it's going to be more lean. Lean means more air. So if you got a higher airflow intake in your bike, then it's going to be lean unless you tune it for it. So if you have a stock intake, except for those late model specials, and you take it off and you put any aftermarket high flow air cleaner, whether it be an S&S or, you know, Tab's got a cool looking see-through one, or Roland Sands glass one, or all those kinds of things, all those are high flow air cleaners and require a retune of your bike, at least a little bit. Otherwise it'll be running way too lean and way too hot, and you'll burn exhaust valves and intake valves and all that kind of stuff. What we're going to do today is take one off a bike that already has a high flow, because I'm just not a fan and it's not real practical. I'll show you what I'm talking about. The very cool aftermarket air cleaner. It's a Roland Sands. I would imagine it's pricey because all of his stuff is higher end and therefore not cheap. It is not Kirk or Amazon special. It is the real deal. You can see. I prefer an S&S teardrop for the reasons I described before, and because I live in South Florida, this doesn't provide much in the wet weather protection sort of thing. A lot of California bikes are rolling around out there with this, and I'm sure it's fine because they get no rain ever and they're all going to die. But the S&S has some protection to it, you know, from wet weather, and I live in South Florida, which means that I ride in wet weather 360 days out of the year, although not today. Look at that. It's 1,000 degrees out, but it's not raining. So what we're going to do is take this guy off, box it up. I'll sell it on eBay to recoup some of the cost of that guy. I got that from Dennis Kirk. It was actually surprisingly a pretty decent deal. It's basically a stealth air cleaner, which is the same high flow air cleaner that S&S makes for twin cams and for Milwaukee 8s, but then you just put a different cover on it. And one of the ones you can do is either the teardrop or what they call the tribute cover, which, let me show you if I get out here, is on the Mrs. bikes. That's an S&S tribute cover. And then if you can see way over there on my red bike, that's an old-fashioned S&S teardrop. And then on the Cholo bike over there is actually an old-fashioned S&S super intake with the old style one, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think on the Springer also. Anywho, so I don't know how to take this guy off, but I'm sure it's like all the others. I'm going to take this off, probably a bolt behind there. It's not a very complicated process, but we'll figure it out. All right, so the old one's pulled off. So again, you got these breather bolts that relieve pressure and allow oil to kind of a little bit flow in here and then get sucked inside the motor and burned. Another EPA thing. There are a lot of things you can do with bypass lines and stuff to get that oil out into a catch can or something like that, which I have done on the CVO, but also you can do things like the fueling dipstick that relieve pressure and then go down to a filter, or Trask makes a transmission cover that does kind of the same thing. My favorite thing is the fueling dipstick. It's just really nicely made. And nowadays I think it's cheaper than the other solutions, so check that out. Now it's, a new gasket. I got to clean that up a little more. New gasket, the back plate, the same kind of thing with the breathers, and then putting the filter on there, but we'll be done pretty quick. This isn't a big deal. All right, so you're like step one on this, guys. Here's the back plate, okay? In here, it's kind of hard to show or whether you can see it. There's little holes deep down inside there. The oil is going to go through the breather bolts into those little jet holes through the back plate to that exhaust bit right there, and then get pulled into the motor. But how you do this is it's threaded. These 3 holes are threaded. I've already put the screws through here, but you thread the screws through these holes, and then they're sort of captive. And then the gasket goes over these 3 screws, and then the breather bolts go through these holes with a rubberized washer. See that right there? Those are rubber-coated washers. So the breather bolt goes through the rubber-coated washer, through the hole, then another rubber-coated washer goes in the backside, and those breather bolts screw in right there. I mean, it's incredibly simple stuff, you know, like there's not a lot to it. So again, gaskets go in the back of these screws. The breather bolts are going to go through a rubber washer through the big hole, another rubber washer in the back, and then into the motor. That's it. And then these 2 screws here, the filter just kind of sits on there, and then the teardrop goes on top, and the teardrop holds the filter on. All right, and the back plate is on. It's a bit of a ballet because you're trying to keep the gasket on the bolts, keep the rubber washers in place. So again, there's a rubber washer between here and the plate, and then between the plate and the motor. So you need 4. They include 8 just to make you question everything about yourself, but you only need 4. 1 here, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. Why did they include 8? I don't know, but they're useful little suckers. I keep them in case you have to take this off. You're going to lose one of those if you take this off, so you have spares. Next step is going to be just throwing the filter on, throwing the teardrop on, and 2 screws hold it on, and done. All right, so these come with really good sort of forever usable K&N style. I don't know who makes them, but a K&N style sort of filter where you keep this washed and oiled, and then you just throw it on right there. And then again, the teardrop sticks on there, and then some screws go through the teardrop into those, and that holds the air filter on. But this filter can be removed and washed and re-oiled over and over again. So, well, then just throw it on the ground and get dirt all over the damn thing. So anyway, so that's the whole assembly. Anyway, so I'm gonna throw this on and we'll be done real quick. There you go, S&S teardrop. I like this. It's a modern version. As you can see, they did open up around the sides. And yes, in severe rain, that's still not perfect, but a little better than just completely open. And this is not my bad weather. This is my sort of douchebagger. It's, you know, it's meant to be cool and flashy, and I run S&S on everything. So I'll put the link down below. I bought this. It's not a gift. I bought this from Dennis Kirk. I can't remember if I paid $350 or $315, but it was something right in that region. It was like $315 to, I can't remember why it was one of those 2 numbers, but I'll put a link down below. I always buy everything from Dennis Kirk anymore because their shipping seems to be fastest, and I'm in South Florida, so I got this thing in like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. So, and I've met the guys before, and they're really nice. But this is not a gift. It's not a premium or promo or whatever. I bought this. So, anyway, so love you all to death. We'll talk real soon. Take care of each other out there. Bye.